Everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty, aka Beth Bookish, and on today's video I'm talking you through all the books that I hauled in Scotland, as well as ranking the bookshops that we visited. In case you're unaware, I have spent the last month with the incredible Ren from The Reading Ren, who I am very, very excited to say we are now officially a couple. But while they were here, it was my birthday and we went for a 4-day trip to Edinburgh, which I have posted the vlog to. I will warn, it's an hour long. While we were there, obviously, we're both book bloggers, we're both booktubers, so we went to all the bookstores that we could. There were a few that we didn't get to because we either didn't have time or we were realising that we'd bought a lot of books, and so to start budgeting we cut back. But mostly it was time because we had so many things that we wanted to do and only 4 days to do it in, and by day 3 we were both at the point where we were in the museum and we were almost collapsing because we were just that tired and we gave up. I think we barely did half an hour in the museum before we gave up. So we just went and had a rest. So yeah, we did still go to 6 bookstores. A few of them were ones that I'd seen online and that everyone recommended and say that are the best ones in the city. A few were just sort of your random, your run-of-the-mill ones that you might find in many capital cities. So we have Toppings and Company Bookstore, Typewriter Books, Armchair Books, Lighthouse Bookshop, Forbidden Planet, Waterstones and Blackwell. So it was 7 in total, not 6. So yeah, I'm just going to talk you through what we thought. For each of them I have 4 areas that I've done like a little tally here on the back of a random envelope, and so I've got 4 areas that I kind of decided to judge them off of, and that was atmosphere, so things like how the shop made me feel, the people, the customers, how well was the shop laid out, were there any extra little bits that maybe they did to make you feel included and welcome. Staff, so were the staff friendly, were they pleasant, did they service our needs, were they kind of just non-existent, that kind of thing. The books themselves, so did they have a really good selection, do I feel like I found what I wanted in each one, do I feel like they catered to the audience they said they catered for, etc. And then overall enjoyment, so just this is a judgment of would I go back. So what I am going to do though is very quickly show you the books that I am still counting because they are on Goodreads, but they weren't bought from specific bookstores. And we have a little book of poems that we picked up from the Celtic Goldsmith on our way, or silversmith, on our way home. It was like a lovely little workshop in the middle of nowhere in the border towns, and we randomly stopped and it was really lovely actually, and we both picked stuff up, so that was lovely. The Edinburgh Castle official tour guide, because I was wondering would this fit for Goodreads, and it does because it does have a lot of text, so it does count. One from the vault tour that we went on, so Descend and Discover the Story of the Blair Street Underground Vault. I picked up a couple of these little books, so we've got Scottish Environments and Supernatural Scotland and the Museum Guidebook, all from the National Museum. And that was it. Everything else were bought from one of these 7 bookshops. So, the rankings. I'm going to go from the worst to the best, as I always do in these kind of videos. In 7th place is one that you find in a lot of places, and that is Forbidden Planet. I love Forbidden Planet, it's one of my favourite shops to go into, but the one in Edinburgh was an absolute hell. All of the shelves were really tightly compacted together, so 2 people couldn't go into the aisle together, you had to squeeze around each other. It was really busy, so every single time I stopped at a shelf to look at books I was being shuffled along or pushed or shoved, and I was getting ready to punch somebody. They had about 3 stores worth of stuff in one store on one floor, The manga section was absolutely teeny tiny, and they were blaring music super loud. So for atmosphere, I only gave this a 1. The staff, when we got to the tills, they were pleasant enough, but other than that, they were non-existent. So 2 for staff. The books I've given a 3 out of 5 because it was a decent amount for how small the shop was. It was a decent selection, and I managed to pick up the books that I wanted. So I gave it a 3. And then overall enjoyment, I gave a 2 because it was not fun. We were in and out within 10 minutes, and it took both of us about an hour to come back down from that overload. But while we were in there, I picked up Cat Gamer Volume 2 and 3, and because it's a 3 for 2 sale, I also picked up Spy Family Volume 2 so I can continue that series. In 6th place, we have one that unfortunately was lauded as being amazing, and is like on every blog that I looked at was like, you must go to this place, it's brilliant, it's quintessential Edinburgh, it was in like all of the top 10s and top 5s and all of this, and we hated it, and I hate to say that, and that was Armchair Books. It's a secondhand bookshop. It has a huge section that are ancient and old antiquity books, but it also has modern day, and it's all secondhand. But oh my god, it was cramped, it was musty, everyone was just jostling and shoving each other. As soon as you walk in the door, that's where the science fiction and fantasy is, and it took me about 20 minutes to look through one shelf because I was constantly having to like let people out of the shop or move out of the way for those coming in, and there was just no space to move anywhere. And again, both of us were like, get the hell out of here. So unfortunately, I know loads of people recommend it, and it's on so many of the like top bookstores you must visit, but I personally say unless you specifically want antique books, avoid. Especially if you're autistic and it's busy, because it was a sensory nightmare and we both hated it, and we were like, never again. So for that one, because of all the cramped and the smells and everything like that, we gave it a 2. I gave it 2 for atmosphere. 2 for staff because there was one staff member, they were kind of sat in this little cubby by the till and basically just didn't look up. Literally the only interaction I had with any staff there was just to pay for my books. I have given the book selection a 3 because their antiquities section was fantastic. Their modern non-fiction was lackluster, and honestly I wasn't overly impressed with what books were available. I don't know. It just didn't hit the right spot for me. That being said, I did pick up 2 books while I was in there. Surprisingly, I found a tiny little manga section that had about 8 manga, and I picked up Your Name Volume 1 because it's one that I've kind of heard of and would like to give a try. And I also picked up a copy of The Graveyard Book because they had like 10 copies of them on the shelves. On that same level is, again, another big chain store, and one that usually I love to visit and have a great experience in, and that was Waterstones. Admittedly, we only were in there for 10 minutes because we got in there just before they closed, but there was nothing really special about it, nothing really stood out, and it kind of just felt like I've been in here before, whereas I've been into a lot of Waterstones where it felt really unique and special. Atmosphere, again, was a 2. There was nothing really that special. The layout was as you would expect. Staff were a 2 again. Couldn't find anyone, and when I did need to find something, she was a bit more interested in the fact that the shop was closing than actually helping me, so I got a little bit annoyed. The book selection, again, a 3. The manga section had like 1 or 2 that I hadn't heard of that I was interested in, but it just wasn't a great selection, especially when compared to one of the other bookstores that's coming up, which surprisingly I wasn't expecting to have a good manga section and had more manga than both Waterstones and Forbidden Planet times 2 combined. So yeah, it just, I don't know, I just didn't get on with it, didn't like it, so I gave that the same as Armchair Books, slightly higher than Armchair Books. In technically 4th and 3rd, but I'm going to say they were joint 3rd because they were brilliant, and there is a huge jump from those 3 to the rest of the bookstores, so I'm just going to say that they are joint 3rd and bronze medal place. They had the same score and the same kind of experience when I thought back on them. The first of those was Blackwell's. This is the oldest bookstore. This particular one is the oldest bookstore in, I think, all of Scotland. I know it said Edinburgh, but I can't remember. I think it was all of Scotland. It was just really nice in there. They had a really big open space. They had a big art shop in the back. They had a cafe downstairs. I didn't really venture upstairs, but I did go into the basement, and holy hell, I'll get to that in a second. So the atmosphere and the layout were really, really good. It was very well lit without being too obnoxious. The art store had so many supplies and things in there, and it was really open and wide, so you could properly have a look around and move around people. I never bumped into anyone. The only sort of issue I had were the stairs leading down and up to the different floors. They were very narrow and kind of easy to trip on. So I gave that a 5. The staff, I didn't really have a lot of interaction with the staff, but on the second day, on my actual birthday, the guy was really, really friendly and lovely. I gave him a recommendation to read The Greatcoats because he was new to this fantasy section and wanted some more recommendations. And one of the books that I bought is linked to that series, so he was like, "Oh, what series is this?" And I explained, and he was really sweet and really lovely. I gave a 3 for the staff because, like I said, apart from that one interaction, I didn't have any interaction with anybody. The selection of books available was incredible. They had a massive section for Scottish authors. They had almost the entirety of their basement was fantasy and manga and YA, and it was incredible. There was so much selection. I had a really hard time choosing. But the other good thing is a lot of stores I've been finding have the volumes in that I don't need. So they're either like volume 1, which I already own, or they're volume 3 and 4 when I need volume 2. I think apart from one, every single one of these were ones that I needed in the next in the series. So obviously they got a 5 for their book selection. And then overall enjoyment I gave a 4 because a 4. Because like I said, they were really friendly that I spoke to. Everything was really well laid out and well signposted. I didn't struggle to find anything. And it just had a really lovely environment and feel and everything to it. And then from that bookshop, I got Crucible of Chaos by Sebastian de Castell, which is a follow-on to the Greatcoat series, and so is why I ended up recommending that series to the guy, because as you know, I recommend that series all the time on this channel, even though I haven't finished it yet because I'm too scared. And then for my birthday, Ren basically gave me a limit of 5 manga volumes and then added an extra one on. There's one that's downstairs because I've just finished reading it and it's now down on the red shelf ready to review, and that is Our Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide. And then I picked up volume 2 of Ex-Yakuza and Stray Kitten, volume 1 of A Sign of Affection because I've had this on my radar for so long and I was like, I just want to get it. And then I picked up volume 2 and 3 of The Masterful Cat is Depressed Again today, and Ren tagged on volume 4 because they were like, hey, they've got it, we might as well just get all 3 and then you can nearly finish the series in one go. So I ended up with those 3 as well. And like I said, their manga section, incredible. I loved it. I wish I'd taken video footage of it, but I was so in awe of it that I forgot. And that one scored 4.25, which is the exact same score as my next one that I also visited on my birthday, and that was Lighthouse Books. This is a queer-owned, feminist, radical, political bookshop, and it has got sections for those specific topics. It's got like a Scottish writers section, it's got LGBT section, it's got a feminist section, it has queer, like graphic novels, it has non-fiction, fiction. Honest to God, this shop had everything. For atmosphere and layout, it was really well laid out. It was quite cozy and it had a really warm vibe. The front door was kept open the whole time though, and that kind of hindered the experience a tiny bit because I was so cold by the end, my joints started to seize and I was in a lot of pain. So I was like, kind of had to take some points off that because I was like, why is the door open? But everything else was really lovely. All the displays were really great and made me want to pick everything up. And I, again, easily found what I was looking for. The staff, the person that was on the till was really, really lovely, really engaging. I asked, I think, 4 different times for specific things, and every single time they were just like, yep, here, yep, here, yep, here. And just so, so lovely. The book selection, like I said, the way that they curate the books and the way that they specifically target the LGBT community, feminism, things like that, and the way that they section their section split their sections, and they had like the non-LGBT stuff in one area, and then they've got an LGBT specific section. And in that section, things were split into like different types of rep, and there was just so much rep. I could have easily come away with 100 books in there. So obviously that got a 5 for that. And then overall experience, again, I gave a 4 because it was really lovely, but I ended up, like I said, in a lot of pain because I was so cold and there wasn't really anywhere to sit down. Every other shop had somewhere where you could sit, and this place didn't. So I ended up just kind of sitting on the floor for a little bit just to give my legs a break. But in there, I deliberately chose books that were either from Scottish authors, queer authors, or were about feminism. I didn't pick up feminism, unfortunately. But I did get, for Scottish authors, I picked up The Bone Library by Jenny Fagan because it's Scottish and it's poetry, which I want to try. And obviously this cover is just so pretty. I love it. And then I also picked up one that Ren also picked up in a different shop, and that was Slow Seasons by Rosie Steer, and this is like following the Celtic wheel of the year and paganism and looking at how to reconnect with nature. And then for queer, I picked up What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher because as soon as I saw it, I was like, I cannot leave the shop without this, knowing how much Ren loved it last year, so I thought I will give it a go. They've made me curious. And then to finish a series, I picked up Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake. I've got the other one directly behind me here somewhere, so I can try and get those out back to back. And then the sampler that we got was Song of the Wild Knight, Part 1, Song of the Squire by LJ Amber, and this was plugged to us as a queer erotic fantasy. So I'll give it a go. In second place, we have Type Wronger Books. This was such a unique experience, and I think of all the stores it's the one that stood out for being the most unique because not only do they sell books, they also sell typewriters, and it was lovely to just walk around the shop and just see all the typewriters hidden in between the books. And Ren didn't realise until we got back that the typewriters were for sale, and they were like probably a good job that I didn't know this because we probably would have come home with one. And yeah, we just had a really lovely time. It was really well laid out. The only thing that kind of dampened the atmosphere a little bit was the fact that when we were walking around, the floors were just constantly, old buildings, you know, the floors were just constantly creaking and cracking, and both of us just kept being really nervous and were like cringing, and it was a bit overwhelming. So I gave a 4 for the atmosphere. Staff got a 5 because she was so lovely and really chatty, really wanted to engage, wanted to know about us. And also when we paid, they made these little, Ren got a dragon and I got a little elephant, and it's a little origami elephant, so when I pop it out like this, it actually stands up and it's 3D, and it's the cutest thing. And it was just so cute and unique, and he's gonna live on my little shelf. On my shelf here. It was just too adorable. Also, when you bought the books, you got a little stamp from them, so you know that that is where your book came from. And for this one, the books themselves, again, it was a very small bookshop, didn't have a lot of selection, but it was really, again, finely curated for like Scottish and poetry, and a lot of it was LGBT inclined, but it was almost like they'd curated the books in each section, and it was just such a solid selection of books. And I, again, could have easily bought everything in there. So that one got 5 for the books. And then overall enjoyment, I gave 4.5 because, like I said, it was very unique, very interesting. I loved just walking around trying to find all the typewriters, and the attendant was just so lovely. And the book that I picked up from there, I only got one, but I got Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers because it's short. I know a lot of people recommend it, and I have been interested to get into her work, so I thought I'd give it a go. And then our final shop, number 1, my favourite store while we were there, was Toppings and Company. On the outside, and when you first walk in, it kind of feels a little bit like a normal bookstore. But then within 2 minutes, you're greeted by a member of staff who asks if you want a cup of tea, and you say, yes, please, and he goes, I'll just set you up upstairs. And I'm like, what? Thinking maybe they've got a little cafe. No, it was a proper little book nook hidden away in a nice quiet part of the building, overlooking the streets, and it was just so beautiful to sit there, and it was a full-on pot of tea with everything. And it was so lovely to just sort of sit there for 20 minutes with the book that I'd bought with me, which was Fern Brady's Strong Female Character that I'm currently reading. And honestly, it was just so lovely to start the trip with a little sit down, and I got to warm up and have some tea and chill. And it was so lovely to be greeted by that. And when you walk around, there are ladders everywhere. It's floor to ceiling bookshelves like it is in Armchair. But oh my god, it's just so much nicer. Everything's spaced out. There were a couple of sections that felt a little bit cramped, but it was, as long as you were kind of conscious of the people around you, and everyone was so friendly. So atmosphere and layout, the layout was very expansive, and it was a little bit confusing sometimes to work out where things were and where you were at times. I got lost at least twice trying to find Ren at points. So, but I still gave it a 5 because it was just like all the ladders, it was like something out of Beauty and the Beast. I never found an excuse to get up one of them, but I really wanted to. They allow dogs in there as well, so we got to make a friend with one of the dogs that came in. The staff were a 5. I went up to them about 3 or 4 times for various things. They were always so lovely. One of them, we ended up having a chat about some of our favourite books and series, and obviously the fact that when you walk in, they're all smiling, they're all friendly, they offered me a cup of tea. I could only give a 5 for that. The store was so huge, it's almost at risk of being too big and too many books, but I gave it a 5 because again, there was something there in every section. I could have picked up like 10 different things. And then overall enjoyment, I gave it a 5. So this one got a solid 5 out of 5 and is a must go to. It was only on 2 floors, but those 2 floors were absolutely incredible. 3 books that I picked up from there were A Man and His Cat Volume 1. I have read it, but now it's nice to just have a physical copy, and I want to start getting the rest of them. I then picked up another manga that I've never really heard of, but I'm thinking it might appear in the next wholesome manga series, and that is The Girl from the Other Side. And it looks kind of atmospheric, but it also on a flick through looked really cute. And then finally, I got the Night Sky Almanac. This year, I have told myself that I want to get more into stargazing and looking at the skies and looking up more. And so I figure this might help me to actually do that. And what's really cool is it's got northern and southern hemispheres, so I can be like looking at this and know that that's what Ren's seeing on the other side of the world. This is the stack that I got. Not a bad haul for, I mean, technically if we say 2 days, because only 2 of the days did we actually go book shopping. Half of these are birthday gifts. So thank you, Ren. And I'm sorry I bankrupted you. But also, it was just incredible, and it really was what people say. And we walked past at least 3 that we ended up not going into. And there was one that we did want to go into, I think it's called Golden Hair, that, again, people talk about all the time. But we just didn't have the time to walk to that part of the city because it was a little bit further out. There were a few duds, but for the most part, it is true what they say. Edinburgh has got an incredible bookish community. And they also had some art stores as well, and it was lovely going into those. And for anyone asking, do I still want to move to Edinburgh? Yes, even more so now, because I'm like, this is such a big bookish and artistic community, and it's very LGBT. I'm just like, I need to be there. If you've ever been to Edinburgh, let me know what your favourite bookstore was, and if you have not, then let me know what your favourite books in this stack are. I hope you're all good, I hope you're all staying safe, I hope you enjoyed that video. Leave it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you on the next one.